This is the GTV Caribbean News. I am Sean Rose. The Ministry of Tourism and Entertainment in Jamaica is moving to provide protection for one of the island's foremost indigenous music forms, reggae. State Minister Damian Crawford said the ministry is working with the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office in preparing a cabinet submission towards that objective. Crawford, who was making his contribution to the 2013-2014 budget debate in the House of Representatives on Tuesday, said reggae can be protected under the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO Convention for the Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage. Crawford said UNESCO's formal recognition of reggae as a traditional cultural expression and art form of Jamaica would better enable Jamaica to maintain control over the definition, recognition, and identification of the musical form. The state minister further asserted that the recognition of reggae as distinctly Jamaican would attract funding towards the preservation and maintenance of traditional reggae art forms and practitioners. He said there is also the potential to attract more investors as well as visitors to Jamaica who wish to pilgrim to the Mecca of authentic reggae. France is prepared to finance the construction of a 15-megawatt geothermal plant in Dominica. This was confirmed by Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit during a press conference last week. Skerrit recently led a delegation to France where talks were held with French officials about its support for Dominica's geothermal energy pursuits. The French government has also expressed interest in supporting Dominica's government plans to construct a 120-megawatt plant and has committed to provide technical assistance towards the successful development of Dominica's geothermal project. The Skerrit administration has already spent millions in its geothermal exploration and drilling efforts to reduce the cost of electricity. Bolivia's President Evo Morales has accused European countries of an act of aggression and a provocation to Latin America for refusing to allow its presidential jet into their airspace, amid suggestions U.S. fugitive Edward Snowden was on board. His presidential plane arrived home in Bolivia's capital late Wednesday following an unplanned 14-hour layover in Vienna. His government said France, Spain, and Portugal all refused to let it through their airspace, forcing it to land in Austria. He had been flying home from a summit in Russia. Bolivian government officials have repeatedly said they believe that Washington was behind the incident. Morales, a leftist, has long been a fierce critic of U.S. policy toward Latin America and had suggested while in Russia that he was willing to consider giving Snowden asylum in Bolivia. Once grounded in Vienna, Mr. Morales' jet was reportedly searched for Snowden, who is wanted by the U.S. on charges of leaking secrets he gathered while working as a contractor for the National Security Agency, the NSA, America's electronic spying agency. Snowden himself remains out of public view, believed to be stuck in a Moscow airport transit area, seeking asylum from one of more than a dozen countries. Despite being refused political asylum in Brazil, former Turks and Caicos Islands Premier Michael Misick is now reported to have engaged attorneys to fight his extradition to the TCI to face charges in relation to alleged government corruption in the British territory during his 2003-2009 term in office. The Special Investigation and the Prosecution Team in the TCI has also reportedly retained Brazilian counsel. Misick was rearrested by Brazilian federal police in April in Sao Paulo on the authority of the Brazilian Supreme Court following the final denial of his application for political asylum. Head of the UK Special Investigation and Prosecution Team, Helen Garlick, said in April that Misick will stand trial if he is returned to the TCI. The St. Kitts and Nevis police force will soon have a greater public presence as they prepare to roll out a new motorcycle patrol unit. 18 police officers and a traffic warden completed a 3-day motorcycle training course on Wednesday, in which they were exposed to a number of advanced techniques covering safety procedures, maneuvering through crowded and tight areas, mounting and dismounting the motorcycles, roadway exercises, and brake and escape. 12 of the motorcycles will be used in St. Kitts, while 4 will patrol the roadways in Nevis. For the JTV Caribbean News, Sean Rose.
Coming up next on JTV News. The TRC to draw attention to dangers of using cell phones while driving as the DMV moves to ban video devices in drivers' area. The British Navy resumes marine surveillance and disaster relief services in the BVI and the Caribbean with HMS Lancaster. Ministers emphasized the importance of imparting good moral values to younger generations and new residents to the territory. And the 40th Friendship Day celebrations on Virgin Gorda focus on one people with shared history.